Any learnings you've had so far about social change sector and using data?
So an interesting little side about what we've been doing is when the data came, we were looking at financial data. So it was all sort of discrete dollar amounts. But as we worked through it, we kind of come to find out that in fact the data had been pre-processed so that in certain rows, zeros, or what we call like NA, or a blank entry, had been turned to a zero, which seems like innocuous enough sort of thing to have done, but it really had a strong effect on many of the models, and it took teams and all of us a while to realize that this was in fact the case, and this is what was causing things to break down. So we had this really engaging discussion about why it's important when dealing with data, and this may or may not, this applies to everyone, but was particularly useful in this case because it wasn't something that having thought about in this particular area. You have to be really conscientious about what you're doing because it has a lot of outcome on the final result. So it's like people can say things like, "Oh, statistics lie," but the methods don't lie. What happens is that people make decisions that affect upstream about the data. So this was a really nice discussion that we were able to have that really had very little to do with the methods themselves, and more like how do you think about data in this way if you have never done it before. And this was just an example of one of the things that we did.